I gotta have more cowbell, man.
Now their time has come. Here the power's gone. Rustfoot is the reaper. He wields a pen, the fun's and a brain. Here comes the reaper. Dems your babies. Here comes the reaper. Gonna tie your hands. Here comes the reaper. Won't be able to fly. Here comes the reaper. Baby, end your plan. Blah, blah, blah,
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. That was a really good song. Someone should make a song like that. It's good tune, good beat. Needs a little more cowbell. Definitely needs a little more cowbell. But I hope you all are doing well. Sorry, as you know, those of you who missed the memo, I wasn't here last night. It was Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. So yeah, I put up a schedule in Locals, and I even shared that schedule in my community tab in YouTube world, so that this way you guys can see my schedule when I'm not going to be working because of Jewish holidays, which over the next couple of weeks, there's 4 more days where I normally likely would have been working, which I am definitely not going to be working. So I wanted you all to be aware of that. And even when I come in after the holiday, shows are going to start late. Maybe not as late as this one. Maybe not as late as this one, but probably not as late as this one. Probably start a little earlier than this. But yeah, they're probably going to start late because I'm not going through the news. When I'm not here because of Jewish holiday, that means I'm not looking at my phone. If there's some international incident, unlikely I would even know about it, because you just sort of cloistered in our own little square. So yeah, that's the deal with that. I have a relatively short show tonight. It's relatively short. I put up a goal there of I think this show tonight is probably going to last like an hour. I put up a goal that if we get 10 super chats of $10 or more instead of 15, because I basically was like, I'll go for a second hour. I don't know what I'll talk about, so I'm kind of daring y'all, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to cover. If I have to go 2 hours, I don't know what that's going to be. But I appreciate you covering the copyright fee. Blue Oyster Cult's going to come after me. I was going to go with a different intro. Which I was like, this is really a great intro. This was really great. Something else that was shared by Trump. Trump shared that tweet out. And SoCal is so here for it. You should be, especially if you're a Niner fan. But I guess if you're a Los Angeles Ram fan, you probably not. That's more closer to Southern California. But anyhow, yeah, the other intro I was going to use would not have been a copyright infringement. Also, something shared by Trump on True Social, which just made me laugh. So I'll throw that in as a bonus. If we hit our goal, I'll give you that other thing. Look at this. Accepted. God bless you, Kay. Dare accepted. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do for the second hour. You probably don't. It's gonna be like me, just snorting snuff. I'll just be like, and I don't mean like what you guys think of snuff. I mean like old school like snuff. That's probably what I'm gonna end up doing. I'm just gonna yank out the snuff, and I'll just be like sitting here. She's like, they don't believe me. I'm gonna share with you the snuff explanation before it gets taken totally in the wrong direction by some of you sickos out there. Okay, snuff is a word which doesn't only mean what you think it means. Okay, snuff actually is a reference to like powdered tobacco, which they'll sometimes infuse various flavors to. And we're not allowed to eat or drink on Yom Kippur, or smoke, or use electronics, or use fire, or it's just nothing. So that limits my ability to get nicotine, which just makes me very cranky. It does. She will attest. It makes me very cranky. And so this year I tried something I never tried before, which is this powdered tobacco called snuff that you could sort of inhale. And yeah, you don't want to see me. It's gross. It's really gross. You don't want to see it. No one wants to trust me. You don't want to see it. It's really good though. It's very like reviving if like you have no energy. It's really reviving. Anyway, so yeah, and Brian is trying to push us ever closer to, gosh, not one but two of these. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for trying to basically tear me and see what will Joe talk about during his second hour. Yeah, well, if we hit that goal, I will. One of the things I'll spend part of the second hour of at least a minute and a half of it is watching something else that he shared out there. So what I really want to talk about here is the shutdown, the government shutdown, which is something I'm enjoying in ways I didn't fully anticipate I could ever enjoy a shutdown. And watching the posturing from both sides, while also Trump seems very excited, very, very excited by the shutdown. He's like, no, we're good. We're good. Thank you so much. Thank you for this shutdown here. He even tweeted this out, and this made the left go nuts. This made them go cuckoo bananas. So he tweeted this out. Let's start with this. Why it is that the shutdown is so much fun. He said, I have a meeting today with Russ Vought. I don't even know how you pronounce his name. He of Project 2025 fame to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. Goodbye, Democrat programs. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They're not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. President Donald J. Trump. Yes, so apparently what started as Agenda 47 is now morphing into, thank you, Senator Schumer, for shutting down our government, morphing into Project 2025. That's what's happening. There's really no other way to look at it. That's exactly what's happening here. It's becoming Project 2025. And in the sense that we're just gonna start doing away with all these leftist Democrats. Frankly, this is the part of Project 2025 we all should have been endorsing. The left is going nuts by that tweet. They're using that because they're anything for some framing, desperate to try and find some framing. They're so desperate. I guess life is rough if you're a Democrat, or imagine worse than being a Democrat. You're someone who's like a Democrat you're like a social media influencer. Like you have to find stuff to like try and gin up the base. Good things are coming. And what do you have? So what you have is framing. That's what you have, and they're basically going nuts. This is what they're all saying in wake of that. The Kamala was right about everything. That because Kamala is saying this was always the plan. Project 2025 was Donald Trump's blueprint to seize unchecked power within the federal government, restrict Americans' freedoms, and you walked right into it. Maybe, I don't know. He said it was Agenda 47. I believed him. You pretty much forced him into Project 2025. one after another, they're all pointing to that and basically saying, this is something he can't be doing. Listen to this yokel over here. Very not happy with JD Vance. Very not happy with JD Vance.
I mean, listen, we're not dumb. The American people aren't dumb. They know.
Oh, you are pretty dumb.
Know exactly what happened here. Literally within hours of the government shutting down, the White House announced that they were suspending major projects for one city in America, the one city that happens to be represented by the Democratic leader in the House and the Democratic leader in the Senate. What they did is likely illegal. The White House doesn't have the ability to just decide to spend money in Republican states and not spend money in Democratic states.
You turn to the OMB. That's the Office of Management and Budget. That's where you turn.
But it tells you what the problem is here. Our democracy is crumbling.
You don't have a democracy. You never had a democracy. There's no such thing as a democracy. You don't have a democracy. We've never been a democracy, so democracy cannot be crumbling. The only time democracy could be crumbling is if you have no integrity in your elections or you don't have transparency of your integrity elections. The democratic element to our constitutional republic may be crumbling, has crumbled, did crumble pretty drastically in 2020, but you don't have a democracy to crumble. What you're complaining about, what you're whining about is that your constitutional republic, in your opinion, is crumbling, but you don't have a democracy. So when you're starting with that framing, we already know that you're not trying to actually share any sort of insider perspective. You're just trying to share some sort of talking point because there ain't no democracy. We ain't a democracy. We need a little civics lesson every once in a while. I assume most of you watching me are aware that we are not a democracy. Thank God. Our founders expressly rejected the notion of us being democracy because they said every democracy that's ever existed has turned evil and crumbled. So we don't ever want to be a democracy because when you have a democracy, you basically have the masses taking care of destroying the minority. That's what we don't want to see. So democracy equals evil, invariably. Maybe it doesn't start that way. Maybe you start off with some sort of highfalutin notion that people are all going to be so altruistic and worry about their neighbors and fairness. But the reality is that when you have a democracy, invariably chaos, mayhem, looting ensues. So, yeah, we don't have a democracy. So we're not seeing that crumble. In your opinion, I think you probably would say our constitutional republic is crumbling in that you're saying he's not respecting the constitutional boundaries. That at least would be an argument you could try to make, but you walked right into it, so I can't really feel much sympathy for you.
Have a democracy when the president of the United States gets to decide and pick and choose where federal money is spent and where it isn't spent.
I mean, just think about what this numbskull is saying here. If it were a democracy, the president is democratically elected leader. It's not as if Congress is sitting there deciding on a minute by minute basis where money gets spent. They authorize how much money is spent under our Constitution. But then there's a shutdown. So I don't know. Why don't you get Congress back together and start complaining? What you actually had the executive branch supposed to be implementing. So I don't know. Go get your democracy back in shape. Get him back in the Capitol.
Based upon whether the people that represent those states are nice to him or not. That's not a democracy. And so that's what we're fighting about. They're fighting about
the notion that you think you're in a democracy. That's your first fight. That's your first. I will keep pounding on these knuckleheads.
Healthcare.
That's one of my New Year's resolutions is to try and clean up my language a little bit with words like knuckleheads.
For American citizens, but we're also fighting about trying to preserve basic democratic norms that guarantee that
democratic norms. But you mean the Democratic Party norms? Is that what you mean?
All Americans are protected, not just Americans who live in states where their representatives are part of Donald Trump's cult.
Cult. Part of their cult. Part of their cult. You saw his face just went there. Part of their cult.
Americans who live in states where their representatives are part of Donald Trump's cult.
Woo! Woo! Some of them are hot under the collar. Oh, they're not too happy. Hakeem Jeffries putting out here, Donald Trump shut down the government to further his Project 2025 agenda.
I'm an open book. I have nothing to do with Project 2025. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it.
Yeah, no. So now he brought in the 20 project. He's like, I haven't read it. I'm going to bring in the expert. You hadn't read it. Now he's bringing him in. He's like, let me get the guy in here. This was always the plan. Project 2025. You don't even know what's in it. Well, you can't even identify what's wrong with Project 2025. Tell us what's wrong with it. You just said it's 2025. It's Project 2025. You never even told us one time. Not one time did you explain what was so terrible about Project 2025. Trump scammed you. He pretended not to know what Project 2025 was. This is Ed Krasenstein. This is great. I almost opened with this. Al Franken saying, is J.D. Vance a liar or just woefully ignorant when claiming that Democrats want to give health benefits to undocumented immigrants? That's what Al Franken, the guy who basically cheated to get into the Senate and then was humiliated in a scandal and chased out of the Senate. Former comedy writer for Saturday Night Live. Biggest freaking liar in the world. So he asks, is J.D. Vance a liar or just woefully ignorant when claiming that Democrats want to give health benefits to undocumented immigrants? Elon shared this out because he thought it was funny. Dr. Richard Harambe responding, you tell me.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
They all raise their hands. They don't have a single original thought amongst them. So they all raise their hands like a bunch of, let's give health care to the undocumented immigrants. And now that's being thrown in their face. Thrown in their face. Russ Vogt was born for this moment. We'll see. We'll see. Brian Ogden kicking in another 10, trying to keep me here. These folks trying to keep me here for 2 full hours. I don't know where's the snuff? Where's the snuff? I hear it is. This is it. This is the snuff. The snuff is going to end up happening. Listen. I gotta tell you one thing. I couldn't even believe. Did you see how much snuff was in here? Did you see it? Yeah. I bought this thing. I'm embarrassed to tell you how much I paid for this. For this canister. Okay? I bought this thing. I didn't look inside. I assumed it was a canister filled with snuff. It pretty much started with that much. But that is snuff. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be doing that on stream. You're going to all get grossed out if you saw me do it. You see the terrorist attack on synagogue in Manchester, UK yesterday. 2 people died. A few hours later, Muslims celebrating in the streets. I'm surprised. The only thing surprising about that is that they waited a few hours. They probably just took them that long to learn about it. Invariably. Why? Because Israel, right? Let's just attack a synagogue in Manchester, England, because, Israel. That makes total sense. Yeah. It's not at all because they hate Jews. No, it's because Israel. Because, England is so close to Israel. So, horrible. Our democracy equals our power. Then it makes sense. Yeah, then it does make sense if you read democracy as meaning power. That's the only way it makes any sense. Kosher snuff is not new. It's been around for a while. It's just my first year trying it. But yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, they're none too happy. We're going to get into who's lying and who's not. We're going to get into that in a moment. First, I want to break down for you exactly how Trump is trying to use this scenario, including Russ Vogt. We're going to get into that. We'll get into that now. Let's get into that presently. Gunther Eagleman reporting, sounding the alarms. Liberals are now begging Senate Democrats to reopen the government. After OMB canceled billions in green new scam money, these people finally realize just what they've done. Russ Vought has been waiting his entire adult life for a chance like this. What Trump said really got them scared. Trump would use this unprecedented opportunity to really make things painful for Democrats and ultimately continue to hollow out the federal workforce and eliminate programs that he doesn't like. And that's very different from what we've seen with past shutdowns. I hope OMB completely devastates the deep state apparatus. It's a prime opportunity to make concrete changes. Let's see what we got here.
Renee, let's first start with what we know, what we don't know, I guess, about the Trump administration's, what they actually mean when they say mass firings are imminent. Is there a picture that's starting to emerge of who or even what is being targeted at this point?
No, I think that still remains unclear at this point. We know that this morning the president said that he was meeting with OMB Director Russ Vought and that they would be hammering out these sort of details on which so-called, he calls it, these are his words, Democratic agencies, where they would be cutting workers, where they'd be cutting programs, and discussing whether they would be permanent cuts or temporary cuts. But we should point out that before the shutdown officially went into effect, Vought had already gotten the wheels turning in this direction. In a memo to agency heads, he told them to consider mass layoffs for employees working on programs and projects whose funding will lapse, and there's no other source of funding available, and it's also not aligned with the president's agenda. So those were the
no money. What can we do? There's just no money. So you're sitting there whining, you're making a democracy crumble. There's no money. You didn't sign the CR, so there's no money. Congress hasn't approved it. It's not our fault that Congress didn't approve it. Maybe you should come in with a more, maybe sign off on a continuing resolution. But no, you had to try implementing changes. You had to try implementing changes because you wanted to try and claw back from what was signed into law under the big, beautiful bill. That's what was happening here. They were trying to claw back certain changes that were implemented in the big, beautiful bill. And that's what they're fighting over. That's why they're so mad. That's from the Democrat perspective, like, hey, this was our opportunity to try and undo the big, beautiful bill. But they can't frame it like that. They can't frame it like that because that doesn't sound very democratic. That doesn't sound like the way a democracy is supposed to work. So they can't frame it like that. So instead, they're framing it as the Republicans are going Project 2025, and and Democrats are just trying to protect healthcare. I think most folks see through that. But I got more for you. I got a lot more for you, actually. Here's MSDNC in full-blown panic right now over Russ Vought and his immense power that's been granted by the Schumer shutdown. Folks, this is the big setup for 2028. He's finally realized that Trump is going to obliterate their corruption. These people know that Democratic Party has hit rock bottom and there's no way back up. I've fallen and I can't get back up.
So, Michael, let me bring you to today. President Trump posts on social media he's meeting with Vought today, quote, to determine which of the many Democratic agencies he recommends to be cut and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. Is this what Republicans voted for when they voted unanimously to confirm Russ Vought at OMB? Is it what voters voted for?
Yes. And yes. Did you miss 77 million votes?
Yeah, well,
yes, that should be the end of it. He's going to go for another 2 minutes and 20 seconds here, but really, he already answered it in the first word. Yes.
Yes to both.
Oh, you see, that is what we voted for.
I'm sorry, we have a responsibility as citizens to fully flesh out what a presidential candidate intends to do. Donald Trump told us that he wanted to be a dictator. Donald Trump told us he wanted retribution. Donald Trump lied about not knowing anything about Project 2025, but as he tweets out today, he's fully aware of what it is because it is executing a strategy within his own administration. So, there was a lot of BS and lying about what this wasn't. You certainly, on the weekend, we started talking about this a year before we got here. And so the reality of it is here we are. And so
the problem is that no one ever believes you anymore. That's part of your problem. That's a big part of your problem.
Incredible reporting by McKay.
Oh, incredible reporting. Just incredible. I mean, it was a complete lie. And just because he's leaning in towards the guy from Project 2025 in October of 2025 doesn't mean that that's what he was thinking about in October 2024. You guys twisted this scenario. You created this scenario.
The reality for the country right now is, okay, if this is the idea to create a unitary executive, which is the power center.
You made it like this by shutting down Congress. You made it like this. It's like, this is so stupid. It's so unbelievably disingenuous. You basically say, okay, we're shutting down Congress. We're shutting down the government, shutting everything down. So now, where are you expecting the money to come from? Did you think that the first thing he was going to cut was ICE? Is that what you thought? Did you think that that's where he was going to go? Did you think he was going to start? You did think he was going to be like, oh, we don't have money. Let's pull the funding from our border patrol. Is that what you thought? This is the stupidest thing in the world. What did you think was going to happen?
Of all of this
This is such FAFO. This is classic FAFO.
Put all the power of the federal bureaucracy in one person. Then what happens in the next election? Right? Does this power?
The next election, we see J.D. Vance. That's what happens in the next election.
If the voters decide that they want a Democrat, now transfer to the next Democratic president?
And look, obviously, we saw what happened with the last Democrat. We saw what happened there. So there was basically unchecked power there. They just pretended they started persecuting their enemies. I mean, I don't know what you think. Like this doesn't sound like such a big threat. This doesn't sound like a threat at all. What is Trump doing now, which is in any way different from what Biden would have done or Kamala would have done if she was in power? Tell us. Like there's nothing new that's happening here.
Hell no. That's not what this is about. They're not setting up a unitary executive to shift this power at some point 4 years from now to a Democrat. Are you kidding me? That's not what this is about. This is about locking down the power. So to McKay's point, this moment right now, this shutdown is part of the plan. It works.
Who signed off on the shutdown? Yell at Schumer. They're so angry. It's like they can't look more than 3 minutes into the future. What did you think was going to happen when you shut down the government? What was your anticipation here? We're going to shut down the government and then what? Just look 2 seconds into the future. Like what happens then? So dumb. It's such a relief. It's like, oh, thank you, God, for making my enemies morons. You should never rely on them being morons. You can't do that. Never underestimate them, because then, one day they'll rise up and surprise you. But when they display their complete idiocy, just revel in the moment.
It just happened to time out a certain way. But that's always been the end game, to stress test the system to the breaking point where we now at a situation where they will indiscriminately fire thousands, hundreds of thousands of federal employees.
We can only hope. I think it's going to be thousands. I'm not optimistic enough to think it's hundreds of thousands, but
no intent of bringing them back, and certainly consolidating that power in Donald Trump. Folks, this is the big setup for 2028. Don't be stupid.
What is the setup that you think is happening? What's the setup for 2028 where you think that he's going to just stay there for a third term. I think they do think that. You could see like the smoke like coming out of his ears. That means he's trying to think.
See what's in front of you because it's happening, and they expect by the time we get there, you will be immune to any charges that this is fascism, that this is not the American way.
You see, they're already back to the fascism. Where's the fascism? What are you talking about? Do you even understand what the term means? You just throw out fascism. It's like they throw out their violent rhetoric, basically inspiring the loonies among them to go do things, and then they're going to pretend that they didn't say this 10 minutes later when there's another incident, God forbid.
This is unconstitutional.
So, McKay, first of all, fascinating article.
Fascinating article. Now I'm curious if I should like break down that article, maybe during hour 2, because it seems like we're working closer and closer towards hour 2, especially if I count the Rumble and Locals chat towards the goal. I do count them towards the goal. Oh my God. J.H. Schwalbach said, Joe, have you ever thought about becoming a Presbyterian? No. Our holidays illustrative and we love the same God. Still not doing it. We will welcome you. Appreciate the welcome. Very, very thoughtful of you. But no. We have the most number of doctors, lawyers, and professionals. Most of all, we have bacon. Bacon. Now we'd be blessed to help you with your transition. Never mind. Jewish Joe is the best Joe. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's definitely not thinking in that direction. But I appreciate the warmth with that invitation. And that was pretty funny close out there. So yeah. And being around more doctors and lawyers, believe it or not, that's not even a selling point. if you're trying to like just sort of wrap together a sales pitch, that's not usually the way people go. Like the opportunity to be around more doctors and lawyers. Is that really a plus? Is that? But is it? But I understand. I'm a lawyer. Is that really what? There are plenty of doctors and lawyers. Is your sukkah up and ready to go? So yes and no. Yes and no. Usually, I eat most of my meals in my sister's sukkah. She has a big, massive sukkah, and I helped her put that up. I helped my brother-in-law put that up on Sunday. Sukkah is like is the hut shack thing that we eat in during the holiday of Sukkot. Sukkot follows on the heels of Yom Kippur 5 days later. That's why I'm going to be missing 2 days next week. So I that's up and ready to go. Usually I'll have a second one that my sons will put up, which is a more quicker type of deal to put up, just a few poles and stuff. It's not as fast as it should be, but they usually take care of that. And I don't usually eat in that one. They just sleep in that one. So, but yeah. How about you? Is yours up? Gifted 10. Look at this. I don't remember what this is anymore. What are 10 Good Lawgic members? Oh, 10 new members of the following. God bless you, Charles. This is anymore. What are 10 Good Lawgic members? Oh, 10 new members of the following. God bless you, Charles. I'm hearing an echo. Did you hear an echo? I think I heard an echo. MG Law, the viewers just joined. Say hello, MG Law. MG Law. Thank you, brother. I got rated. Look at that. I got rated. God bless you, MG Law. Thank you so much. Following 10 people brought into the following new followers, courtesy of Charles Coe. That it would include, so when you hear your name, please, as a new member of the following, which is not at all a cult type of cult, please make sure that you express your gratitude to Charles Coe, who is incredibly generous. And that would include you, Calm on Ground, Bluntly, Alan Sparks, Debbie, Southern Mom, HHH Custom Knives, Otto Bond, Lazy L, John Mosley, and Lacey, all of them brought into the following. Please bear in mind that, as I said, the following is not at all a cult type of cult. It's just a gathering of like-minded individuals who are seeking greater personal growth through community, unity, learning, and thinking. It's a very healthy experience that I highly recommend, and you too can become a member of the following. And yes, and now we have 10 new followers. So welcome. And God bless you, Charles. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. What else we got going on here? Even after the BBB was passed, Dems didn't read. Of course not. Of course not. We're going to talk about what they did to try. They did read it, and they tried actually clawing back from it. We're going to talk about how this is part of the whole argument on the narrative as to, are the Democrats trying to get healthcare to illegals? Is that what they're fighting over or not? Because they're very, very adamant. No, it's illegal. It's impossible. How could anyone even say we're trying to do that when there's a law against it? Which sounds like if you don't think it through, it sounds like a pretty good argument. That they're just lying, that the Republicans are lying. But we're going to look at that a little bit more deeply. T-Rex says, Joe, will you pretty please get a sombrero and wear it tomorrow? It's interesting to me. I guess the person who screened Trump's social media was furloughed because Mimer-in-Chief has returned. The Mimer-in-Chief has returned. Okay, I'll tell you this. We're close enough to our goal, and especially if I count other stuff. I'm going to share with you now, just because an act of good faith, and because you brought up the sombrero, I'm going to share with you something that I almost opened the show with, which I thought was hilarious. And it ties into what you were just referencing there, T-Rex, and that's right here. My good friend Sean Farish. Sean Farish, who's awesome. Great Trump imitator.
Hola.
This is Sean Farish. I almost opened the show with this, but I was like, I need a copyright strike, so let me do that. Let me do that instead. I need Blue Oyster Cult to come after me. But this was what I was going to open up with. This is Sean Farish. This was shared out by Trump on Truth Social. So there you go. This is one of Sean's better ones.
Hola, mi fellow Americanos y bienvenidos al cierre de Schumer. That means welcome to the Schumer shutdown. We call it the Schumer siesta, right? It's the Schumer siesta. He put the government on siesta, crying Chuck. And El Hakimo Jefe Jeffries, we used to call him Dollar Store Obama, till we realized he's worth far less than $1. But they put the government on siesta to give illegal aliens your health care. We're not going to let it happen. I looked at both of them. I said, we're not going to let it happen. It's no bueno. I said, it's no bueno. They begged me. They said, but senor, por favor, please give illegal aliens the health care. I said, we're not going to do it. We're never going to do it. It's not going to happen. And they're also very upset about our big, beautiful sombreros. You look at them. These are the greatest sombreros the world has ever seen. We really have the best sombreros, and everybody wants one except Crying Chuck and El Hakimo Jefe Jeffries. They don't want one, but they're going to wear one when all is said and done. We're going to end the siesta. We're going to reopen the government, and we will not give in to the demands of Chuck and El Jefe. We're not going to do that. Thank you. God bless you. Dio lo bendiga, and God bless America. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
There you go. Sean nailing it. Nailing it. He's great. He's so talented. So we were reviewing some of the whining, crying, really upset, really upset, just not too happy Democrats. And why are they not upset? Why are they so upset? Well, before I play this clip, I just want you to see the chyron here. ICE will be at Bad Bunny's Super Bowl show. This is like a public service announcement from CNN. Just if you're thinking about going to the Super Bowl and you're like an illegal alien, they're gonna be rounding you up. They're gonna be rounding you up. So ICE is gonna be there. They'll figure, oh, you're gonna sit there, especially if you're some trans Mexican. And by that I mean obviously someone who dreams of being Mexican and is transitioning into being a Mexican. So if you're a trans Mexican and you're a big fan of the whole Bad Bunny dude, not Not that I know any. I seriously have never heard a single song from this guy, not one. But yeah, so just be aware that ICE is going to be looking for you over there. So yeah, but here's this clip that I wanted to share with you about Trump just dashing those dreams of the Democrats.
As I mentioned, the president saying he's going after, quote, Democratic things, also Democratic states, as you know. So Russ Vought yesterday saying they're targeting $8 billion of green projects. California is included in his list of targets. Are there specific programs in your district that you're concerned about this morning?
Oh, absolutely. And look, everyone should be concerned. What we know.
It's like the first thing to go is the stupid programs. As we were concerned, when the financial belt is being tightened and we sort of got to figure out where to make cuts, the first thing that Trump is getting rid of is the idiotic programs. So we were hoping he would focus on more like the basic essentials as to where he would make his cuts when he had limited budget during a shutdown. Sadly for Democrats, he's shutting down the really stupid ideas.
This president is willing to do in the name of vindictiveness, really.
Vindictiveness. Where is he supposed to come up with money for your stupid programs? You don't have an answer for that. You just don't like it that he's that he's calling it out and saying, we don't need this one.
Has no limitation. And so we're going to need to do everything we can. For example, NASA Ames is a very important institution in my district. That is not just important for all the scientific discovery that happens there, but also for our Defense Department.
Does that protect you, though?
The rule protects all of us, I think, as Americans.
No. I mean, yes, you point out the importance of those programs. Sure. Do you believe that in some way insulates them?
Maybe.
No. It's just because you want to label it as something that's defense related doesn't mean it's part of our defense budget.
Look, I don't think there is any ideological or logical limitation to what this president's willing to do. It's all about vindictiveness. So if it's in our district, we know we have to.
You call it vindictiveness. I call it common sense finance. You call it vindictiveness. That's because you're bitter that you're losing. More winning, please.
Fight for it.
How long are Democrats willing to sit through this?
As long as it takes to ensure that when the government reopens, it's a government that actually serves Americans. And
so that's what it's doing now. It's serving only Americans. That's the problem.
Reduces the cost of living rather than what we know is going to happen if this proposal passes, which is we're going to see 22 million Americans pay twice as much for their health insurance.
We'll be watching.
Yeah, that's not what your concern is. But we're going to get to that. We'll get to that very shortly. Very, very shortly. Joe is just trying to get a group of people together to help dig more tunnels. Not a cult, just unpaid laborers. Look. You have your methods. I have mine. So, and we had a new one. Well, a new member of the following. Welcome to Uzret. God bless you. And thank you for kicking in on the sombrero fund. Much obliged to you, my friend. Thank you very, very much. Hope this shutdown lasts because you have your costume. In 2008, so thematically, we dress up for Purim, much as many of you may dress up for Halloween. So we dress up in costume. Many of you remember seeing me as the drunk genie and stuff like that. I think it was in 2008. I ended up going. I might have worn blackface. I think it's possible. I think I had dreadlocks. And on the front of my shirt, it was right after the Reverend Wright thing came out. And it said, I had a shirt that said, kill Whitey. And then on the back, it said, your next president. That was, I think, in 2008. But then in 2009, so if you describe it, it doesn't sound nearly as bad as if you see a picture of it. If I saw a picture of it, my social media career would probably be abruptly canceled. Probably would, that costume. 2009, it wasn't meant as anything other than mocking Obama and that he was basically someone who went to Jeremiah Wright's church where they basically hated white people. So big surprise. But in 2009, so I think that's when the Affordable Care Act was coming out. And my family theme was we went as the United Nations. So everyone was dressed as a different nationality. Right. The United Nearments is what we called it. Right. So I went that year as a Mexican with a sombrero and I said, give me free healthcare. That's how ahead of the curve I was. That was 2009. That's 16 years ago. 16 years ago, I had the sombrero costume and the poncho and give me free healthcare. So there you go. There you go. Sucks that it costs $4 for a $2 rant to be read. What? What does that mean? That I didn't read this one? Vote needs to get busy. 3 Dems a cave plus 4 equals a win. I disagree with you. First of all, it's not true. You don't have to. I saw something else and whatever. I wanted to get towards the goal. But I apologize for that, Dick. Second of all, I'll tell you that I don't know if they're coming back so fast. Just as soon as they get 4 Democrats. I don't know. Maybe some Republicans will be like, not in the mood to give you a continuing resolution anymore. They should push harder. CNN, what would you say Democrats are selling which Americans would want to buy? That's a great question. That would be a great question. What are you selling that you think anyone actually agrees with? Go! Okay, I got my snuff ready. Ready to go. I'm ready to go. We are a cult of a personality disorder. I don't know if I agree with personality disorder. I think that's a little bit harsh. That's a little harsh. But yeah, so they're very, very concerned. The left is very, very concerned that they're seeing their programs getting shunted to the side. Shunted to the side. Let's get a recap on this over here. Trump's massive layoff threat and the precarious state of the American economy raise the odds of longer lasting damage. Brought to you by Greeley Tribune. I don't know what that is. I don't know what this is. I don't know if they're left leaning, right leaning. The title here sounds kind of left leaning, but let's see. Shutdowns. Okay, let's get rid of this because I don't need to have this up here. Let's get rid of this stuff out. I know you're all yelling at me. Use Brave, Joe. Use Brave. Why you don't get pop-ups on Brave? We don't have to see what type of pants they want you to buy. Shutdowns of the federal government usually don't leave much economic damage, but the one that started Wednesday looks riskier, not least because President Donald Trump is threatening to use the standoff to permanently eliminate thousands of government jobs, and the state of the economy is already precarious. Ooh. For now, financial markets are shrugging off the impasse as just the latest failure of Republicans and Democrats to agree on a budget and keep the government running. Quote, everyone seems quite complacent about the shutdown, assuming the Democrats and Republicans will come to terms and life will go on, as has been the case in past shutdowns. The independent economist Ed Yardeni wrote in a commentary Thursday, quote, history could certainly repeat, especially with a man known for deal-making sitting in the Oval Office. But given the chasm, yes, I pronounce it chasm, okay? Some people say chasm, which is also technically correct, but I think chasm is more elitist. But given the chasm separating the two political parties, Yardeni added, the lack of caution is somewhat surprising. The U.S. government has now shut down 21 times in the past half century. The last of those shutdowns was the longest, stretching 5 weeks in December 2018 into January 2019 during Trump's first term. Even that one barely left a mark on the world's biggest economy. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that shaved just 0.02% off 2019 U.S. gross domestic product, the nation's output of goods and services. The economic impact of shutdowns is usually fleeting. Federal workers get furloughed. Federal government delays some spending while they last. When they're over, federal workers go back to their jobs and collect back pay, and the government belatedly spends the money it had withheld. It's pretty much a wash. What are you going to give me here? Do you think I'm going to get in trouble if I share that? You think I can share this?
I don't know. Maybe locals.
I should put this in locals.
It's pretty funny.
Lady Logic has dug up my while I'm reading this, she dug up. Can you send it to me? Send it to my yeah, send it to me. I'll put it in locals. Lady Logic dug up a picture of me with this sombrero in that Purim costume from 2009. It's before I had a beard, so I'm almost unrecognizable. She sent it to me on WhatsApp. I'm wondering if she's like, maybe just share it on locals, not on. And I think that's a good idea. Maybe I'll put it in locals. We'll do that. I'll put it in the locals chat. So at goodlogic.locals.com. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Let me take care of that in a moment. Government shutdowns are inconvenient and messy, said Scott Helfenstein. This is not really what I wanted. I really wanted to get who he's cutting. All right, I'm gonna skip this for now. I know I should be looking for things to fill time, but because I have to basically give you an extra hour now, because we hit our goal. God bless you guys, because you're awesome, and you called me out on my dare. But let me dig this thing up. I'm gonna dig up this picture. It's just for locals. So they give me a moment. I can't get into that chat, so I'm going to make it a separate thing. Make it its own post. All right. All right. How do I make this for just...
Did I slide you? You find you by yourself.
I already did it. I don't know why I spelled it. Sombrero with an E. But that's done. Okay. Go ahead. I didn't remember that I had a mustache for that picture. Definitely not sharing that. Definitely not. That will literally end my career. Oh my gosh. It looks worse when I see that one. Definitely not sharing that. No. All right. Well, anyhow. So that's over at goodlogic.locals.com. You see that little white thing under the Good Logic, aka Joe? That's where you'll find the sombrero picture. Definitely not sharing the picture of me from 2008. That's not happening. Not happening. Spicy Sophism says, can't believe no sombrero and Rumble standard emote set yet. Joe, please add to your channel. You think I know how to add emojis? You think that's like in my repertoire? Is that something? What about me led you to believe that stuff like that is in my repertoire? Yeah, I would love to have it, but the capacity to actually do it, that's my question. What about me and the history of you knowing me has led you to conclude that that's something that could possibly happen? I can't even begin to imagine. So, but I do want to break down for you one of the confusing things here, which is them screaming. The left is screaming that the Republicans are lying when they say that Democrats are trying to give are trying to give healthcare to illegal aliens. And here's one of them screaming about it. This is Coons, Chris Coons. So apparently if you say it like that, it's not racist.
There's not two sides to this argument. The president said Democrats want to give a gold-plated Medicare program for illegal aliens. That's not true. You can only benefit from the Affordable Care Act, Medicare and Medicaid, if you have legal status in this country.
Which was
So let's
broadly
just be clear.
expanded
We are
during
not
COVID.
fighting for health care for people who are here illegally. That's not true.
But they,
We are
okay.
fighting for health care for Americans.
All right. There.
Dick apparently went and saw the picture in locals of me with my asking for healthcare as a Mexican back in 2009. So, yeah. See how young I look? It's crazy. It's crazy. Crazy. Yeah, so they're saying, no, they can't get it. It's against the law. It's impossible. Why would anyone even think that they could get healthcare? It's not even possible. Here's Trump saying just the opposite. Trump is saying that they are trying to get healthcare. That's what they're fighting over.
It's politics, and they're doing things and asking for things that you wouldn't want, and most people that are sane wouldn't want, and patriots wouldn't want. They want illegal aliens to get taken care of with health care. And it's not, look, I have a bigger heart than they do, but it's not even that. Everybody in the world is going to enter our country and say, give us free health care, give us this, give us that. It's going to ruin all of the things that we have, all of the plans that we have. Obamacare was never any good, but it subsists. It's there. And everything will be destroyed because no country has enough money to take care of that. So they want the illegals. They refuse to get away with open borders. They want to do open borders. If they ever got in, they'll open up the borders. We have closed borders now. You only come into our country legally. But they would open up the borders in 2 minutes. And you understand it better than anybody because you've covered it so well for so long. Even though you're a young guy, you've covered it very well. They want transgender for everybody. They want men and women's sports. They haven't learned what happened in the last election. I think they forgot. And it's pretty amazing, actually. But in terms of the dollars or the money that we're talking about, they want us to take care of illegals. They want us to take care of people that can absolutely get a job. They're healthy and strong as you can be and young. And this is not what this was all about.
So he says they are trying to get them health care. Who's lying here? Who's telling the truth? My answer is going to surprise you. In a way, they both are. They're both, in a way, they're both telling the truth. In a way, they're both lying. I'm going to explain to you what that means. It's just the way they're framing it. I definitely lean more towards Democrats are lying, but we'll break it. I'm going to try and break it down so that you can understand and be more informed. Here's Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt trying to address this, and she kind of dodges the question a little bit here with this answer. Now, when Eric Doherty shared this out, he calls this as a mic drop, but the reality is she kind of ducks the question a little bit in a way that is not satisfactory to me, and I want to break it down for you in a way that you can better understand.
To undocumented immigrants, even though it's against the law for them to get these benefits. I know there's some debate about law-free presence. Do you think that illegal aliens should receive Medicaid benefits?
So he's basically asking, it's against the law for them to get it, and she's focusing on that element as far as, do you want to change that law? But really he's asking, why are you claiming that they would be getting it if it's illegal for them to get it? So she does sort of go at him, but it's not really answering his question, if you're going to be fair.
Benefits that go to the most vulnerable. I didn't ask about benefits, and that's a debate.
Medicaid benefits that were designed to help low-income families and Americans in our country.
Well, look at that.
Can't receive them.
So what the Biden administration did, Gabe, is they allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens from all over the world
Parole and temporary
to come
protected
into our
status.
country, yes, and they paroled them into the system. And you cover immigration, and you know well, it was a complete abuse of our immigration
But my
system.
question
and they
isn't-
slapped a Band-Aid on these illegals. They called it temporary protective status, and then they allowed those illegals from all over the world to get free benefits. And you know who would like free benefits?
I understand that point,
Hardworking
Caroline.
Americans who work their butts off every day, who are living paycheck to paycheck because of the Biden-induced inflation crisis. And there were higher wait times at hospitals under the Biden administration. We saw these illegals committing crimes all over our country, and they're getting things for free. That is fundamentally unfair, and this administration is
But
not
for
going
the
to
ER,
So Kimmy shared this with me, which I want to just call to your attention. This is Newsweek sharing out. You would think Newsweek would not be sharing out this sort of thing, but maybe they're trying to. This was in May when they were trying to tell people, they were trying to tell illegals where they should go. Map showing 14 states offering health care to undocumented migrants. I do believe, I don't want to misinform anyone. I'm bringing this up so I can help nip this in the bud. My understanding is that this is state Medicaid, not federal Medicaid. That's what I think this is. I want our arguments here to be rooted in fact. So if I'm mistaken, I'm sure some of you will be yelling at me that I'm an idiot, and that's possible. But my understanding is that this is state-funded healthcare, not federal. So that's why they're saying that this is unrelated and this is a red herring. But that doesn't mean that Democrats tell the truth, because they're not telling the truth. They're misleading. They're very, very misleading. I'm going to get to that. But this is not how they're misleading. This is something that I think is actually people are sharing, I believe. And I don't think it, supposedly, when I checked AI, which is left-leaning AI, supposedly they're not reimbursed by federal funds, because I know that's the next argument is, oh, the states pay it and then they're reimbursed. I don't think that they are reimbursed. But I'm going to break down for you how the Democrats are lying here, and that a great deal of our money is going towards healthcare for illegal aliens. Not this way. It's a different way. I'll break it down for you in a moment. We're going to get there. Now I have more time to work with. And you're going to hear it from their own mouth. I'm going to let you have the left admit it. Someone from the left, famous, one of the big voices on the left. But this is CNN, again, trying to help stop Speaker Mike Johnson from sharing his perspective on this whole thing by cutting him off.
When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats.
All right, we're listening here to Speaker Johnson. He's trying to frame the shutdown as a Democratic shutdown. He also falsely claimed that Democrats want to give extend health care to illegal immigrants. That is not true.
It is true. You're lying.
Immigrants are not eligible for federal health care.
That's true. They're not eligible, but they still get money, a lot of money.
Programs. Join us now as soon as Kevin Liptak at the White House. Kevin.
And part of the reason that we're shut down is because Democrats want to make sure that they still get access to that money. So what the Democrats are doing to try and win this framing is by pointing to a law which says that it's illegal for undocumented invaders to get to have money from federal health care. You can't, they're ineligible to obtain it.
President Trump is meeting with Russell Vought, director of the Office of Management and Budget.
So that is them trying to shut him down. And what he shares during that little exercise is very confusing. I thought I had him not cut off. I thought I heard him not cut off. And I did, but I don't see it here. But he points to the bill that, and he actually directs everyone to go check out speaker.gov. Let me see. I want to get the clip of him saying it because it just ties in better. And I thought I had it here. Let me see if I can just pull it up real fast. Let me see if I can do a quick search here. There it is.
Now, why are we?
This is the clip I wanted to share with y'all.
saying that they want to return and restore taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens? Because that's exactly what they did. When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats, Chuck Schumer, filed a counter proposal. Now, what was in that counter proposal? You can see it for yourselves. In fact, if you're watching at home, go to my website right now, speaker.gov.
Speaker.gov. Okay. You want us to go to speaker.gov. That's over here.
Now, why are we saying that they want to return and restore taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens? Because that's exactly what they did. When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats, Chuck Schumer, filed a counter proposal. Now, what was in that counter proposal? You can see it for yourselves. In fact, if you're watching at home, go to my website right now, speaker.gov. Go to the press releases tab and you'll see it. It's listed right there. Just click on it. I'd like you to turn in your hymnals to page 57, okay? Section 2141. It is there in black letter. They filed this. This is not a talking point. This is what they proposed.
Section
now,
2141.
why are we saying that they want to return?
This is what he tells us to look at. When you look at this section 2141 on page 57, this is page 57 of what they proposed. This was their counter. This is the Democrats' counter proposal. This is from his site, speaker.gov. When you look at this, it's very confusing because it references these different bills where, unless you're sitting there and start digging through Public Law 119-21, which I started trying to do this, you're jumping from one hoop to another to try and figure out what the hell they're even asking for in this particular thing. I mean, just look at this legal speak here, which is designed to basically hide what it is that they're asking for. And that's one way of framing it, to say that they're trying to hide it. A Democrat attorney would stand up there and say, well, they want to reference it very directly, so there's no confusion about what they're proposing here. But apparently, this is repealing a section. It's repealing over here a section of the big beautiful bill. And instead of actually going through this whole thing, I'm going to let the Democrats tell you what is being repealed here. Because, let's hear from the horse's own mouth. You don't have to trust me. I'm going to let you hear the Democrats admit what it is that they're doing. But before I do, just understand that Scott Jennings is the one who's trying to point this out here in this little clip with Caitlin Collins and Karen Finney. And then we're going to have Elizabeth Warren really slam the door home on this. Here's Scott Jennings.
75 million Americans who voted for Kamala Harris were all immigrants?
No, I'm saying
that's not true.
I'm saying I'm listening to Democratic arguments about most policy issues, and I'm looking at Democratic energy, and it mostly has to do with things to do with immigrants, illegal and some legal, and things to do with government bureaucrats. And right now, you're putting one of your constituencies out of business.
Can I say one thing, which is that people who are in the country illegally cannot get these subsidies
Sure
that
they
we're
can.
talking about?
Sure they can.
No, they can't.
No,
Sure
they
they
can't.
can.
It's
Who
Scott,
do you think? Who do you think pays when they go to the emergency room?
It's about the emergency room. This is where Scott should really focus. He ends up getting a little sidetracked here and gives them an opening.
It's the Medicaid emergency program.
Going to the emergency room is not getting an Obamacare subsidy.
It's not saying it's getting an Obamacare subsidy, but they're still taking our money. And if you have 20 million instead of 2 million illegal aliens here, that's a lot more money.
You guys are conflating. You guys are conflating
No,
these
we're not,
issues.
Scott.
You're conflating these
and
issues.
You're being dishonest with
The
the American
subsidies are a
people about
separate
this,
issue. The
because you know
Medicaid
it's
program cuts
unpopular.
are a different thing.
Right, but I'm talking
Medicaid
about subsidies.
and the Obamacare stuff are two different issues. And I said the subsidies may get negotiated over time. But what Democrats want to do is roll back what the Republican Medicaid reforms were. They want, look, I don't understand why everybody's so mad. For time immemorial, Democrats have argued that it's good. It's good for illegal immigrants to get Medicaid. Every candidate for president in 2020 raised their hand for it. In the big, beautiful bill debate, they argued it was good policy. I can't believe there's an about face in the Democratic Party on it today.
Hold on. I got a question for Karen, but Scott, I will say, people who are in the country
Because they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed that they basically they shut down the government over that because they know that it's political kryptonite. That's what's happening here.
legally also can't get Medicaid.
Sure
That's
they
federal
can.
law.
You see, you're sitting here saying they can't get Medicaid.
Sure they
They
can.
can't get Medicaid.
They also
Medicare,
can't register
CHIP,
to vote. They also
Obamacare
can't register to
subsidies.
vote, but we just found one in Maryland who was running the Des Moines school.
It's not just one. No, we just found one who's running a school.
System.
Oh my God, one.
I mean, I'm telling you, you guys say these things can't happen,
I'm
and
just
then they
saying,
happen.
Scott, but I'm
Oh
just
my
saying
God,
it's
you're
federal law.
absurd.
It's not just one who's voting. We found that they're so prevalent that one who is voting even became superintendent.
You
They're
can
not
run
trying to
cover.
roll
You
back-
can run cover
they're not
for
trying
it if
to
you
roll
want,
back
but they
federal law.
do get federal
It's
tax
just the
money.
facts.
They get
Karen,
federal
can I ask
tax
you-
money. Ask Jake.
Yeah.
He had it on today.
I'm just saying it's against federal law to
Okay.
do
Yes,
that.
it is.
No one cares if it's against federal law. It's against federal law for them to also vote, but we see that they do vote. That's the point. That's exactly his point. But let's hear from Elizabeth Warren because she's actually going to end up stupidly admitting it. Is this it? There it is.
Fighting for is taxpayer dollars for, as they put it, illegal aliens. I know that's not strictly true, but there is a provision.
Excuse me, not strictly true.
It's not
It is
true
a
directly,
flat
but
out lie. It is a flat out lie.
the way
There
that they
is
frame
nothing
it.
in Medicaid. There is nothing in Medicare that permits one.
She sounds like she's like trying to, every time I hear her speak, she sounds like she's trying to do the guy from that Smucker's commercial. It has to be good.
Undocumented immigrant to get.
I always try to figure out how she got her voice to sound like that because that cannot be a natural speaking voice. Is that a health thing? I'm not saying. I really want to know. I'm very curious. It's a very unusual voice.
$1 of assistance.
Senator, if you'd let me finish
Zero.
the question.
Of course,
Senator,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, in the Democratic counteroffer, the proposal for funding, there is a restoration of Medicaid benefits for certain non-citizens that it had been taken away in the big beautiful bill, as the Republicans put it.
So now she's going to explain, and her explanation, which is a defense, is actually an admission.
Republicans don't think those people should be getting health care on the taxpayer dime. I'm not
set it straight, Lizzie.
I'm not asking on the merits. Politically, putting that in there exposes you to this talking point, this lie, as you put it. Why put it in there? Why is it worth it?
No, what's happened is that what we're saying is that whenever hospitals give care, what is going to be the level of reimbursement?
And let's be clear, we're talking here about care for illegals, right? That's what we're talking about.
And the Republicans said it's going to be a low level. The Democrats said we just want to go back to the level it was before because you're going to bankrupt hospitals.
There's so much going on that hospitals are going to be bankrupted.
You're going to put rural hospitals out of business. The Republicans and the Democrats plan, nothing changes the number of undocumented immigrants who still get care if they show up bleeding and unconscious at an emergency room. There is absolutely zero.
But there's so many of them that unless we give a ton more money for when they come to a hospital, these hospitals are going to go bankrupt. That's what she's claiming.
Zero difference. The difference.
So because of these illegal aliens and the money we need to give for their emergency care visits, we either give them that money or it's going to be such a massive hit because there's so many of them. It's so much money that we're going to see hospitals shutting down. She thinks this is winning. Not this, to me, is the biggest admission in the world. You're basically telling me and everyone else that, hey, look, there's so many illegal aliens who are going to these hospitals on emergency basis that the low-level amount that the Republicans are willing to give them, and it's not that they're willing to give them, that's what's the law under the big beautiful bill. The low-level amount that we're giving them under the big beautiful bill is not enough to reimburse these hospitals for what their expenses are, and they're going to go under. What you're essentially saying is there's so many illegal aliens who are going into this, and there's so much money needed for that it's creating a medical crisis. That's what you're saying. That's how much money you're saying you want to infuse in. All of that money for healthcare for illegal aliens, not under Obamacare. No, it's under that emergency care element. That's what she's admitting here. And she's hoping, I guess, that her own constituents are too stupid to realize the vast sums she's talking about investing in emergency care for illegal aliens.
Is whether or not hospitals, who under laws that date back to Ronald Reagan, may provide emergency care to anyone who's unconscious, will actually get reimbursed at a very low level that will put the hospital ultimately out of business potentially, or at a higher level. The Republicans, there is no change in the number of undocumented immigrants who get any help under what the Democrats want. Look,
Senator,
what we're looking for is help for people who are going to get pushed out of nursing homes.
Senator,
what are you talking about? Which people who are getting pushed out of nursing homes? That's a red herring you're trying to throw out there.
Help for people who are at home and relying on home health aides.
What are you talking about?
That's Senator, what this.
What are you talking about? There's a continuing resolution. They want to, and here's the thing. They keep saying it's a dirty resolution, meaning that it's changing everything. That ain't true either. That ain't true either. Where's that clip that I had here? John Manziel told me how to, if I close a clip accidentally, how I can reopen the last thing that I closed. I think I closed the wrong. Oh, here it is. I don't need it. Okay. It's a Control Alt something. All right. Because there's all this talk, like what were they playing around with the continuing resolution? Was the GOP trying to shove extra things in there? Was that what was happening?
What you are about to hear from the Democrats is not true.
The Republican partisan spending bill that they introduced is not clean. Well, first of all, let's be clear. It's not a clean bill. It's a dirty bill. Well, that's all a lie. It's not a clean continuing resolution.
Listen, I like Hakeem Jeffries. I think he's got an amazing future. He's got better fights than this. This is a clean CR. What does that mean, by the way? Continuing resolution. Instead of passing a real budget like they should, this just says, hey, remember the last one? Let's just continue at those levels again, all right? Now, that may mean that certain people who should get less won't, certain people who need more won't, but a clean CR means that this is an extension from the last set of, in this case, Biden's spending levels, okay? That's what a clean CR is. This is a clean CR. Wait a minute, Cuomo disagrees with Jeffries. Jeffries must be right. Don't take my word. Take the word from the nonpartisan committee for a responsible federal budget. They say this is about as clean a CR as you could get. Okay, again, it's a continuation of a March stopgap measure. All right, essentially a continuation of spending levels from Biden, absent about 13 billion. But when you look at it as a function of the pie, it's literally a rounding error. I don't like that. It's a lot of money, but it's a rounding error. Again, don't take my word for it. How about taking this guy's word?
Allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option.
That's what he said in March. He realized in March how bad it would be. And that's before the big, beautiful bill was passed.
I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country, to minimize the harms to the American people. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
And that CR he voted for is the same as this one. So what changed? AOC eyeing his Senate seat. Oh.
That's what changed. This is all about Schumer trying to protect his Senate seat because he's afraid that if he comes in there and signs off on the CR, on this very clean CR, that he's going to lose his Senate seat, that she's going to run, she's going to primary him. That's what this is ultimately about. That's what it was. Control Space T? I think it was Control Alt T. Was it Control Space T? Oh, I don't remember. I don't know. She says Medicare, it's Medicaid. Sneaky. Oh. Forced into retirement end of 2023, and the Social Security office, and at the Social Security office, it was full of folks that didn't speak English. Big surprise. In Everett, Washington, 45 miles north of Seattle. Go M's. We got a good team this year. So, Control Shift T. That sounds right. Control Shift T. There it is. Yeah, I didn't need it. But yeah, I'm gonna try and remember that one. So thank you. Control Shift T is right. That's right. For those of you who are at home, it is Control Shift T. It's a good pick, right, JKB? It's a really good pick. I got 40 minutes I gotta kill. All right. All right. You want to know how many people, by the way, when we started the show, I was telling you about, I meant to share this clip. You know how many people are going to be losing their jobs? This is going to be a bloodbath for Democrats. Such a bloodbath.
Can you give us an estimate on the amount of federal workers that the Trump administration wants to fire during the government shutdown? Are we talking hundreds? Are we talking thousands?
Look, it's likely going to be in the thousands. It's a very good question, and that's something that the Office of Management and Budget and the entire team at the White House here, again, is unfortunately having to work on today. These discussions and these conversations, these meetings would not be happening if the Democrats had voted to keep the government open.
And Schumer knew that. You saw in March how he was afraid of giving this much power to Trump. He knew it. He knew this was going to be a bloodbath for them. He's doing his personal, this shows you how power hungry Schumer, like a typical career politician is. That he screwed over his own party. He screwed over his own party and gave Trump all of this power because he was like, I can't vote in favor of the CR. Otherwise I'm going to lose my career. That's what this is all about. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Anthony, I know I'm late. Did you talk about the synagogue attack in the UK and the response? I did not talk about it very much at all. No. Someone sent a super chat. Karen, I think, sent a super chat to that effect. Yeah, she sent this in. There was a terrorist attack on a synagogue in Manchester, UK. I don't know very much about it. I certainly don't know anything about a response, other than that 2 people were killed, and that the Muslim community in England was all excited and happy about it, which is par for the course. But yeah, I don't know anything. No one should be surprised by that. I remember 15 years ago when there was something happened in Paris to a synagogue, and there was like, the notion is like, well, Israel. It's like a lot of Jews don't even support the state of Israel. But let's just, if you're killing Jews, then it's like, well, it's Israel. Anything's justified. If you're sitting in that camp, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. So, yeah. Anyhow, I also wanted to call your attention to we talk about how, the law and how the laws are, they stop illegals from getting access to healthcare. Here's how Democrats are twisting the law. This is in a relatively right-leaning state of Tennessee, which I saw this and I started looking at it. I actually want to break it down with you. I want to try and actually digest it and break it down with you. The Wall Street Apes was reporting on this. Tennessee is using a loophole through foster care system to bring illegals into America. Let's check out this video and see if we can understand what she's saying, and before I read through that with you. Maybe the words afterwards will help explain it better.
So the Tennessee Department of Children's Services is taking undocumented kids and they're putting them in state's custody in the state foster care system, which means the state taxpayers, it's coming out of the state budget. And then they are assisting these kids into getting what's a court order from the juvenile court that says that they're abandoned, and then they get a what's called an order of abandonment, and then they get a special circumstances juvenile immigration status. And then, of course, once they get that, they can bring their family over or do whatever. This is so clever on their part. You've got to remember how clever and how smart cartel immigration is. They make a lot of money on this. So I finally got my hands on a court order. I got my hands on a court order, and I have a hard copy of it. And it is all about how they did this right here in Davidson County. I have told state legislators, I've told Congress people, this is totally illegal. Plus, I have phone conversations stating that Commissioner Quinn, DCS Commissioner Quinn, is well aware of it, and she is central to it because she has told other providers to report to her if they have any issues with undocumented kids. Okay, huge. It is trafficking. I mean,
She's calling it trafficking. I mean, if they're coming into foster care, I'm not sure how that gets labeled trafficking. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but that's something I'm thinking about trying to look into a little bit further so I can understand better what's happening with that. Joe V wants to know why so many Jews in New York are voting. I'm done. He shake my head. Okay. I tried explaining this a long time ago, and I think I might have done it on Locals, where I was trying to explain why irreligious Jews tend to be very strongly into communism, why there's a natural marriage between irreligious Jews and communism. And I talked about the psyche of irreligious Jews and how their objective has been to try and be as state-oriented as possible and indistinguishable. And this is where you see the absence of, usually they tend to be relatively successful financially, which you would think is completely inconsistent with socialism, communism. But how it actually, there's a natural marriage, an ideological marriage between the objectives of someone who's looking to shed his, who's looking to shed his Jewishness and abandon Torah, and ultimately why that is entirely consistent with everything about Marxist perspective. If you think about it, Marxist perspective in general is a rejection of God, right? That's an essential element to Marxist perspective, and instead it's elevating the state to the place of God, where we're all instead of, man has to serve someone. Man will serve himself. Historically, man would serve God, man is not serving God. Man would tend to serve himself. Marxism introduced the concept of man serving the state. And everything about Marxist perspective, which Marxist perspective has manifested in many different ways. People call it communism. There's technically no actual possible way to engage in communism. This is something that even Soviet Union and China, it's impossible. True, actual communism. If you look at the origin of, you look at the term, the term communism, it means that nobody owns anything. At least as a philosophy, not perhaps as a political entity of communism, but as a philosophy, communism is that no one owns anything, which that's impossible because then no one is able to control anything or do anything, and basically anyone can go anywhere they want at any given time. That's the principle of it. Now, the party communism, which you have, let's say, a capital C on for a party communism, is an amorphous version of that, where you have the fat pigs at the top who are running everything, and they invariably are very, very wealthy. But the concepts of socialism and communism are very, very consistent with a leftist type, with a perspective of let's take care of the poor or the other people to our own detriment, and subjugate ourselves to the state and become part of the state so that there is no individual. If you're someone, I actually, it was when I broke this down, I tried explaining that you have to realize from a historical perspective, Jews were persecuted in one country after another, and the ones who basically abandoned Torah were like, well, I don't want to be persecuted, so if I'm just like a member of the state, and we're all equal members of the state, in that case, I'm not going to be differentiated and potentially persecuted. So that's why to them, this was like an ideal perspective. So if you go back like 130 years, that's why you see a lot of irreligious Jews involved in the movement, and that persisted into the beginning of the 20th century. And at this point, I don't think that that's part of the motivation, but I think they look at it as being altruistic. And if you don't have a healthy, rooted perspective on what actual morality is, like a religion-based rooted perspective on what morality is, then you look at socialism as being moral. You have to be very short-sighted and pretend that you don't see the obvious pitfalls down the road, because socialism invariably and communism invariably must lead to misery. If you actually think about what the objective of communism is, communism must always invariably, if it works, it will lead to ultimate misery. In its best form, if it wasn't corrupted by the people at the top, which defies human nature, because absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that is an axiom that you can bank on. But even if that we pretended that axiom did not exist, even if we pretended that we could find the angels who would be sitting at the top, and they would actually be doing everything with the greatest of integrity and objectives and pure nobility, go through history and label find the most noble person. If you're Christian, right? If you're a Christian and you look at Jesus as being the most noble person ever, and you could clone that and have that person running communism. So someone who is, the pinnacle of nobility. You can take Moses. I'm not trying to, make anyone offended. My point is, no matter how noble the individual is, George Washington, doesn't matter. If that person was cloned and running a socialist country properly, which obviously you're not actually going to have people like that running the government, but even if you could, and it was running socialist government properly, everyone would be miserable. That's the objective. The objective, they don't state that as the objective. The stated, because what they basically stated objective is everyone will have their needs met. The state will have their needs met. But part of what actually, if you understand anything about what human nature calls for, part of what human nature is that you need to fight for and accomplish and get things on your own. You need, in order to find happiness. When we have a preamble to the Constitution, which promises life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's because the pursuit of happiness is the only way you can actually ever attain happiness. Nobody can bestow happiness upon you. You need to go fight and get your own happiness. So that's why I say that the allure is that everyone will sort of be taken care of, and a chicken in every pot, and everyone having their housing and their health care and their needs met. If your needs are being met and it's gifted to you, even if you're plugged in as a cog, and somehow we can find a way that you wouldn't hate that, which you would, because no one likes being plugged in as a cog. That's literally being a slave, where you're basically being subjected to a particular environment. No choice about what that is. Let's say you can maximize your ability there, which is impossible to actually orchestrate on a large basis. You can work it out on a small basis. You can do it in a commune where you have a couple of hundred or even a couple of thousand people, and that you have someone noble who's running it there. Yeah, that could work. And part of the objective is that people could leave and don't have to stay in that system. And part of the objective there is people find happiness in that they're providing services to people they care about, people they like. It's not that I'm doing my work as an auto mechanic because that's what the state directed me to. It's like, no, I want to fix Jim's car, because Jim is going to be doing is Jim is going to be taking care of Bill's son, because Jim is a doctor, and Bill is going to be teaching Sally's daughter because he's a teacher. And Sally is ultimately going to be making me a coat. So you can see how the nature is, I see the productivity. I see my hands helping someone who I know and I care about and I like. If not him, then his close relative. So it's almost like a big, large family breeding unit. And the social structure gets meshed in with the economy. But when you're talking about having tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, it's literally impossible for people to find that sense of value in what they are doing. So you end up basically doing what you have to do, and everything is gifted to you. This is if it's being run nobly. And you're not actually finding that you are working towards you're not finding your own happiness. And if you're not finding your own happiness, invariably you're miserable. No different from someone who is born to very rich parents who give them everything. You see, like the Hunter Biden, it's not Hunter is unique. Hunter is a test case into like the misery that happens when someone has everything gifted to them. How many children of rich kids grow up on and basically go straight to cocaine because they have emptiness in their lives. So even if you could find some way of having people run it in a noble way, invariably, and it's opting, it's the allure, the promise is misery. And that doesn't, and there's so many other flaws. This is just, my point is just the actual structure. The objective is stupid. That's portrayed as being noble. And the nobility is, okay, there's a lot of suffering in the world. We can help alleviate that suffering because everyone will have a home. We'll alleviate the hunger because everyone will have a chicken in every pot. Or if not a chicken, vegetables, because you can't really afford chickens for everyone. But the ideas behind it invariably, and it's best. I didn't go into problems with how you actually structure to have people doing things that they're actually good and productive. I didn't get into the whole red tape problems that invariably crop up and destroyed Russia when they basically had no way of actually having any sort of innovation, because you need to have so many levels of red tape in order to approve changing the system. And that invariably cripples any opportunity for innovation, which means that you are comparative to any other country that's not engaging in this, you are crippled. These are all different problems, and then obviously the corruption, which invariably comes because absolute power corrupting absolutely, and because you don't have such noble, the most noble people of all time running your system, so they're living high on the hog. So invariably you're going to have much misery that's going to be that, then they're basically, bleeding the system for in any way possible. Because of this, it cannot possibly actually lead to happiness on a large scale. On a small scale, you can see it work, and it does work on a very small scale. There are examples of kibbutzim or moshavs in Israel where you're talking about a couple of thousand, you're talking about a few hundred families that live in a close area, and they can thrive for generations. But as far as a system for large swaths of people to engage in, it's literally impossible. And its objective is ultimately misery. But if you're someone who's coming from a background where you're like, I'm trying to survive, like I'm literally being hunted for my DNA, the objective of being someone who's amorphous and doesn't stick out on the basis of your DNA is actually is an ideal. And you end up saying, plus I'm going to be moral because I'll help provide shelter and housing to all these people who are poor. So you can start to see how, from that perspective, if you just give it a very simplistic view, it seems like it's a noble thing. This is why people understand that if you're a kid and you don't believe in socialism, they say you have no heart. And if you grow up and you still believe in socialism, it means you have no brain. It's because the appeal, it's very easy to make an emotional argument and saying, why does someone need to have billions of dollars when other people are literally starving to death or freezing in the cold? Like, how does that seem just? And if you're talking to someone who's simplistic and a child, so in that case, they basically say, oh, well, it's really easy. I'll just take the money from him and give it to her and to them and to them and to them, and he'll still have plenty. And you don't see the shortcomings as to like how that plays out when you try working this on a large scale. And you also you have to have sort of screwed up morality to not realize just how evil it is to just steal from that guy who has money. But yeah, so that's the short version answer I just gave you. I hate sitting on the couch, not being able to do anything. I haven't felt like this since 9/11. I joined the military after that. What do I do now? Anthony, my friend, Anthony, you are living in an age. I'm not sure why it is that you feel like you have to sit on a couch. I don't know if you have some sort of disability. It's possible. But you're living in an age right now where you can reach out and impact the world from the comfort of your couch in ways that no other human who lived even 20 years ago could have dreamed possible. You literally have access to the world. You're only limited by your imagination as to how it is that you can help influence and change the world for the better. But there's countless things you can do from literally the comfort of your bed in your pajamas that you couldn't do, that you're actually making a difference in people's lives. I mean, it's a matter of being creative and trying to figure out, what do I like to do? What am I good at? What skills do I have where I actually can help people? You actually feel some sort of level of productivity from what you're doing. But yeah, the internet affords you just unending opportunity to actually, if you're for one reason or another stuck in your house, to actually help people if that's your inclination. I did have an easy fast, thank you. Comments on Manchester is Baruch Dynamis. Failed socialist experiments on New Harmony, Indiana. Oh, I'm not saying it will always work on a small scale. I'm saying it has a chance of working on a small scale. It doesn't mean it will. Doesn't mean it will. What I'm saying is someone can point me to a kibbutz, this kibbutz or that kibbutz or this moshav or whatever, and say, well, there you see, it's worked there for 50 years, 70 years. It's worked great. And it's true. It has. That doesn't mean it always will work, but it has a chance of working there. On a large scale, it has no chance of working. Kibbutzim all failed or became capitalist coup. So I happen to have a cousin who lives in a moshav in the Golan. They make wine. I think it's still doing pretty well. It's called Ramat Hamag Shamim. I think it's what it's called. in the Golan Heights. So I think it's possible to work. I'm not saying it will work. I'm saying it has a possibility of working. On a large scale, it's impossible to work. So where was I at here? All right. Kat said she gave me something that I'm going to like, that I should look at during the second hour. Let me see what she said here, because I do need to fill no time here. Oh, okay. I saw a clip of this. I meant to get this. I'm glad you brought this to me, Kat. Thank you. This looks like it could be fun. This looks like fun. All right, you guys want some fun? It's John Berman. John Berman always looks to me like something, like someone left like a rotten egg in the drawer right beneath him. There's something about his face.
Of what this message says. In part, it is the very partisan message that calls out and blames Senate Democrats for the shutdown, saying the House of Representatives passed a clean, continuing.
The trolling from Trump is awesome. Let me give you some background here. It's been revealed that left-wing federal bureaucrats are furious that Trump administration set up an automated out-of-office message on their personal government emails blaming Democrats for the shutdown. One of them even tried to change it, but it was reverted. The message says, "Thank you for contacting me. Democratic senators are blocking passage of H.R. 5371, which has led to a lapse in appropriations. The email reminds those who reach out to DOE employees that we cannot respond because the 7 Democrats are refusing to fund the government. Where's the lie?" A spokesperson said. I love it. John Berman does not look happy.
What this message says. In part, it is the very partisan message that calls out and blames Senate Democrats for the shutdown, saying the House of Representatives passed a clean, continuing resolution. Unfortunately, Democrat senators are blocking passage of H.R. 5371 in the Senate, which has led to a lapse in appropriations. Now, we've seen this language come from other agencies during this shutdown, suggesting to their workers to send similar out-of-office emails. But what's different here at the Department of Education, John, is that employees did not give their consent and that this was done without their knowledge. And I had one employee tell me today that they actually went back into their email, changed their out-of-office message twice, and it was reverted back and overridden by this actual partisan messages. So it's very concerning. The Department of Education also, and notably, not denying.
I'm thinking, don't worry, honey. You're fired anyway, so don't worry.
This is happening. They tell me, quote, the email reminds those who reach out to the Department of Education employees that we cannot respond because Senate Democrats are refusing to vote for a clean CR and fund the government, adding, where's the line? Some federal workers raising real concerns about potential violations here of the Hatch Act, which of course states that federal employees are required to perform their duties in a nonpartisan manner.
It's not a lie. It's letting them know what's going on. It's keeping the public informed. It's not partisan. It's keeping the public informed. Hey, dear Leah, just pop in and say Gmar Chasimatova to you too, Bella. This is Queen of Recruitment, Bella Stella, popping on in here. I hope that you I hope you had an easy fast. And yeah, God bless. God bless. Thank you so much. It's very warm. Gmar Chasimatova means may it be completed, sealed for good. Which is a reference to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, the holiday we just finished today, this evening, was when the future for the next forthcoming year was sealed. And we were praying for a good seal from God. So there you go. Anyhow, Anthony says, I'm a soldier, was soldier. I worked as an EMT to help get through college, biopsych. I lost my job and I've had to rely on my disability since the vid. I'm good at keeping people alive or not. Dude. Okay. So I understand what you're saying. You sound like someone who has a wealth of knowledge that I do not possess, and experience, wealth of knowledge and experience that I do not possess, much of which I am actually really curious about. For example, okay, one of the things I'm always advocating for is that there should be, we should be teaching kids first aid. This is something that every human should know. Now, you're telling, I don't know the nature of your disability. What I'm simply saying is this. I can't tell you what to do. I don't know what's right for you. I'm not a prophet. Okay. I'm a guy who's sitting here just brainstorming. If you spend 5 minutes with AI, they could probably give you different suggestions as to what you could come up with that would be that line up with what your skill set is, which could give you careers in social media. It can give you careers in as far as just creating content that people would be interested in seeing or learning about, different ways you could be helpful to different people without having to leave your house. What I'm saying is you don't simply have access to the internet and access to any person in the world virtually. You even have access to sources of information that you can just literally throw a question up and say, hey, this is what I like to do. What do you recommend? I can and brainstorm with it as to what you can do to come up with things that, you know, could help find and literally have a conversation with AI. It could be ChatGPT, it could be Grok, could be whatever, to basically sit there brainstorming, saying, what can I do that, you know, would give me purpose? You could literally frame it just like that. I don't know what they're going to tell you, but, you know, a lot of what you put in there, you explain what your background is, what your experience is, and yeah, just don't be and if you don't like the first thing they say, and you might hate the first 10 things, you can ask them to recommend 20 different suggestions and then play with the ones that they like. What I'm saying is you're actually in a better position now, given technological advancements than you were at any time to someone similarly situated 20, 25 years ago, even 10 years ago. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not trying to make light of your situation at all. I hope you don't take it that way. I'm encouraging you to try and actually just explore what you can do given your particular circumstance. And AI can be a really invaluable tool for helping you find that and even developing into some sort of new type of direction for what you're going to do. Because you need to have some sort of feeling of productivity. Each of us do. That's part of what I was talking about a few moments ago when I was describing socialism, the importance of finding your own happiness. So that is a very essential thing. You cannot rely on other people to bring you happiness, because that's not real happiness. That's fun. That could be fun, but that's not actual happiness. Actual happiness is from feeling like you're contributing to society one way or another. It's one of the things I love about this job that I do, is I feel as if I'm actually doing something. The feedback I get from people is very encouraging. So, and it gives me a sense of purpose that I'm actually helping people. So, but that's not something. What I'm encouraging you is to find your area. That each of us should find our areas, which aligns with our particular skills and backgrounds. I think that could lead towards a better society. Can't hurt to try, right? I mean, you can get a month subscription for less than what you paid to any of these AIs for basically the $10 you just paid here. So it's relatively cheap to find stuff that's going to help you. I want you to find happiness. What else do I have for you guys? Tomorrow is Friday. I don't know if I'm doing laid back law tomorrow. Did he say anything to me on that? This is the snow. I'm very nervous about the feedback on that picture I put up there. I put up that picture of me in a sombrero from that's pretty good. Yeah. All right.
Of what this message says.
I know I promised I was going to give you 2 hours, and I got pretty close to the 2 hours. I got pretty close. Joe, you got close. Crunchy Crayon saying, for those of you having no job options, consider looking into trading. Many firms will fund if you learn and show skill. Don't want to shill, but save my life. Check out my channel and feel free to write me. That's from Crunchy Crayons on Rumble. So you can check out Crunchy Crayons. I'll tell you this, as far as trading, I have a friend who was working a job and started doing trading on the side when he was like in his early 20s. He came up with his own formula for finding good stocks and retired from his job at like 32 because he was doing so well, and has basically been a day trader. Very good friend of mine. So yeah, you never really know where your outlet is going to be, but I don't know. Crunchy Crayons could be great, could be a scam artist. So it's not an endorsement from me. I don't know. I don't know Crunchy Crayons, but saying no joke. I had no way out after health, disability, career disasters all piling on each other. I haven't made my fortune yet, but rebuilt a life. Grace of God and my lovely wife. Seems like a good person, Crunchy Crayons. He also says, I'm not going to pretend it's not hard work like many people do. Yeah, I don't think it's so as easy as people think. People who are not in trading think it is. I think there's actually a lot of research and work that goes into it. But Spicy Sofa, Joe, this is why you're literally echoing Henry Ford in The International Jew, which explicitly contrasts religious versus other kind of Jew. I forget its phrasing. Haven't read it directly. No. So the whole thing about let me just correct this, okay? Henry Ford is basically, and his whole anti-Semitic trope was basically about saying that Jews are, the objective of Jews is to try to influence and control the world. That's not what I was saying. I was describing an objective of actually just not, of basically just not being Jewish anymore. And just being like stateless, homeless, basically just being themselves as individuals who are not part and tied to a Jewish community. Their whole notion is that the notion of the international Jew, so to speak, is that they're going to maintain their ties, their Jewish genetic ties, and use those ties as a basis to try and form some sort of cabal to sculpt the world into some nefarious Jewish agenda or something like that. So I can understand why you would make that you would draw that conclusion from what I was saying. What I was saying is like, no, they're basically trying to erase their Jewishness. That's the objective. Erase as much as possible. Yeah, Spicy Sophist says, just search CMS EMTALA and load the CMS page on EMTALA. Scroll to State Operations Manual, Interpretive Guidelines. When the PDF is crystal clear, Warren knows she's lying. May, she claims. Oh, okay. All right. I think it's time for me to land the plane. I'm going to remind you all here that tomorrow's Friday. It feels my schedule always feels off when I have Jewish holidays because like it feels like I just came out of Shabbos, so it feels like tomorrow should be Sunday, but tomorrow is actually Friday. So yeah, so I'm probably going to end up popping on Layback Law if they end up doing a show. They didn't do one last week. I'm probably going to end up popping in there. Not sure though. So you'll find out. If I do it, I'll mention that on goodlawgic.locals.com, which is where I posted that picture of me in a sombrero with beardless picture. And yeah, and I'm probably going to be doing shows over this weekend because of the Jewish holidays. I'm going to try and cram in shows. I have a lot of family who's home now for the holidays. So, but at the same time, like I feel like I'm missing a lot of time. So I want to try and make up that time wherever possible. Anyhow, that's my show and I'm sticking to it. I thank you so much for joining me. God willing, Saturday night or Sunday night, I do expect to be here. At least one of those. So until and perhaps on Layback Law tomorrow. I thank you all for joining me. God bless each and every one of you. Salty Sea says it's only 11:48 in Arizona. Neener. It's 2 hours here now. So that if that's what you're getting at, what I will get at is that lab meat is not meant for you. So you definitely don't want to be touching any of that. I don't care if you grill it. I don't care if you got a big barbecue thing. It's lab meat. It's meant for they, them. It's not for you. And also do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. Have a good night, everyone. I thank you all so much for joining me. Have a great night. Godspeed.